how are you guys getting results with what you are doing? Because you guys have over the last 2 weeks have generated probably well over, including Corey's stuff and Beaton's non-retainer work, probably close to $25,000 worth of revenue in the last 30 days, possibly within the last 2 weeks. So what are you guys doing that other people can do? So if you read it, and I hope you will, it's not totally relevant for you guys because you guys are doing some really good things. But one of the things that I talked about as if we were to sit down for coffee and you asked me, how to get started and move forward and what to do, it was ask for what you want. It was narrow your focus, like niche down, get better. So as a group of guys who have been together for a while, been with me for a while, and are getting results, how does that list line up? And how are you guys getting results with what you are doing? Because you guys have over the last 2 weeks have generated probably well over, including Corey's stuff and Beaton's non-retainer work, probably close to $25,000 worth of revenue in the last 30 days, possibly within the last 2 weeks. So what are you guys doing in like a tweetable thing that other people can do?
I think the first one is exactly what you put, asking for business.
Mm-hmm.
I've had these contacts that I've been able to gain business from for a year and a half now. But it's just recently when I started asking for the business.
What were you doing before? Like just hoping they would ask you if they could hire you?
Yep, pretty much.
So what did you say?
Exactly.
I'm gonna take this as I'll blot out your faces, but I would love to take this and share it on Facebook. Don't let that change your advice or censor yourself.
Could you keep the blue shirts though? Because we really have that going on. So
# blue shirt mastermind.
3 on 2.
So what were you doing? What did you say?
So in the beginning, before I started asking, I was always hoping they would come to me to ask and say, hey, we have this problem. Can you help us? Instead of me saying, I know from what I've seen, you've got a really good model, but here's some things that I would recommend doing differently. And, oh, by the way, if you agree with that, I can definitely do those for you.
So you worked for free. You went and you studied their model. You pitched an idea and said, by the way, I could do it.
Yep.
Okay.
Exactly. So not necessarily a website recorded review, but a highlight of things of you can improve your optimization here, here, and here, and develop these systems in place to keep your staff focused on the thing they need to be doing instead of responding to emails. So that was number one, and that was the kind of light bulb in their eyes. And then we went through, and I was able to go into greater detail between their audiences and their multiple facets of their business.
And how much has that been worth to you in the last couple of weeks?
About 3,500 total.
Okay. What else would you guys say?
I think for me, it's been since the end of last year, just in a couple of the like networks that I'm in, starting to answer questions answer questions and provide value to the people that are asking about digital marketing or Facebook marketing, and just offering up my time and help in Facebook groups and just Messenger. And then, that's led to 2 of my clients were strictly based on referrals from other people in that Facebook group that referred me to people. And then the other client was just converting someone who I was already doing basically free work for, and then found something that was a value proposition and then pitched them on it. Like it basically is saving them so many hours per week because it's not something that they have time to do while they're running the shop. So they just are happy to get it off their plate. And so I think it comes down to, asking for the work, but also positioning yourself as being knowledgeable in that field. And just, somebody asked a Facebook marketing question in the Facebook group, I was one of the first ones on it. And if I wasn't, somebody was tagging me in the post to answer, to ask, or to give help.
So how did you position yourself as an authority so people would see you as someone worth paying and or as someone worth tagging and saying, hey, go look at this guy?
In one case, it was because, in the Facebook group of 150 entrepreneurs, the Facebook marketing question comes up at least once a week. So it was from the very beginning, it was like as soon as I would see a Facebook marketing question, I would be there answering it, providing value to it. It got to the point where on our weekly group calls, if there was a Facebook question, I would answer it. It would just be being one of the resources in the group. There's probably half a dozen of us in that particular group that do digital marketing stuff, but like I started talking specifically about Facebook stuff, and people started to get to know that if they had a Facebook ads question, they could ask me about it. At the same time, I think one of the things that you said, Ellory, was getting better. So at the same time, while I was doing that, I was learning, and I wasn't afraid to say to these people, like, I don't know all the answers, but I'll help you find out. So I was learning about what I was doing and having some good resources for that, watching all the crap webinars about it, and then realizing that they could be done better. But that's a whole different
So
one in particular, but Corey.
So there's a lot of people that are like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna surf around Facebook and troll these groups, and they end up doing that all day and they don't make any money. And
well, the difference is that this particular group I've been a part of for a year, so I was already established as like there was already relationships built. But then when I transitioned from being the generic, actually, I think it's fair to say that since I've been in a part of that group, I'm not sure if many people really knew what I did with the other business, like with the restaurant side of stuff. And then, because I don't think I was really focused on what I did either. But then once I really started talking about the Facebook stuff, people got a little bit more clarity, and they were able to establish like, okay, their relationship they already had with me as being a decent human being, pair that with, okay, now I have a marketable service. And that was kind of the key to making the referrals happen. So it wasn't going into Facebook groups cold, because that's how you get banned. It was established, having year-long relationships with these people already. So yeah, it's not an overnight thing, unfortunately, but that's what it is.
So you put in a little work for free too.
A little bit of work for free, yeah.
But I think that, so where that comes to is the fifth thing on that list that was in that email that if people asked me for it, what was the number one problem in business? And Corey, you might be able to chime in on this here in a second, but it's obscurity, nobody knowing who the heck you are. So
I talked about this like 2 years ago when we first met. I remember talking about this on the tennis court. Yeah.
So before we go to that, Matt, in the last 2 weeks, what has that process, that building relationships and then adding value and then pitching something, which would go back to that ask, it sounds like. Would you agree? And how much has that been worth to you in the last 2 weeks?
I'd say in the last 2 weeks, probably close to $6,000.
And would you agree it comes down to asking in addition?
Absolutely. It comes down to asking. There's like, because one of them was I've been working for them, helping them out for free, like for 4 or 5 since October. What is that? 5 months from now? And then just in the last week, he was like, oh, I need to outsource this stuff. And then it was just like, wait, what are you outsourcing? Because that's what I do. Like, so instead of him finding somebody that didn't already have a relationship with him and didn't know his business and having to onboard somebody, we just converted somebody that I had been helping because I wanted to help them, because it helped me to help them. And then all of a sudden that became a paying client because of a simple text message. So yeah, asking for the work absolutely benefited me there to the tune of $2,500 a month.
Well, I'm glad that you are saying that, because I remember not so long ago, I think your exact words were, I don't have time to work for free.
Probably.
Yeah, I remember that actually.
Yeah.
And here we are. But it's paid off. I mean, you don't work for free forever, but you have to not be. People have to know who you are. You have to take time to get better, and then you have to get to the point where you're worth $2,500 a month.
I think it's reframing what defines work for free. For me, like it's almost kind of like doing the marketing strategy stuff and reveling, like leaning into ideas and consumer behavior and like market strategy and growth, like to me that sort of stuff is fun, so it didn't feel like work. So to have like a conversation with this cafe owner every couple of weeks to help him figure out how to like open the business is like fun for me, because it really leans into my strengths, which is in ideas and you know, and that sort of thing. And so being able to convert that, so call that working for free doesn't sound like working for free to me, but if you reframe the mindset, it absolutely is. You know, you have an hour-long phone call with somebody on how to strategize, that's working.
Yeah.
You have to think of it as an investment too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So $6,000 or so. What about you, Corey? What is different? What have you done differently over the last couple months that's really worked for you to where, I mean, I don't think it's any sort of exaggeration to say that your life is drastically different than it was 6 months ago.
This friggin' Facebook ad has been, I know I've talked about it a lot, but this Facebook ad has absolutely like exploded my practice. And I think about this every once in a while of, you know, where I was at in August when actually I had a conversation with another chiropractor friend back then. And just the other day I was thinking about something that he talked about. So I went back to my Facebook Messenger and I scrolled all the way back there. And in that same conversation, I was talking to him about how I may have to close my practice next month if I don't make more money.
6 months ago.
It was like August, September. Yeah. It's about
like 8
almost
months
6
ago.
months ago. And it literally, this stupid Facebook ad has just exploded my practice after all the shit that I did, all the time I wasted. I've got this Facebook ad that I'm spending $400 a month on, and I don't even touch it. And it's just cranking away.
I need to get this ad. I need to
That's
figure
it.
out
That's
what that
it,
copy
man.
is.
It's all that. I have done nothing different outside of that. I'm still getting a lot of like good internal referrals, but they're not at a pace that's going to allow my practice to really grow at the rate that I wanted it to.
But I mean, how many? So the ads bringing in new people, but you're also, I mean, the ads for half off one visit, right?
Yeah.
Whoop-de freaking do. But you've had what'd you say? 5 weeks of basically record-breaking weeks. The last 5.
Yeah.
So you're not just doing those one visits.
Oh man, I would say 90% of the people that show up end up buying a package of some sort. I've had very few people come for one visit and then I don't see them again. Occasionally it happens, but usually when people come, they need help with something, and through the process I take them through, I show them that I'm the solution, and so it's a no-brainer to continue to get care.
But it's still, people are, other than the initial, like, I'm going to sign up and you know, get the discount. How many of those people say, "Hey doc, you got a retention program that I can pay you every month for?"
I tell them about it on day 1, actually, or day 2, when I go over their initial plan. I've talked to you about this, how it's a 15 visit minimum before they qualify for the membership. And so I tell them that I go through, you know, these are the packages I offer. By the way, once you hit 15 visits, you qualify for our membership, which is X amount, and a huge, you know, and it's a huge savings. And so I kind of drop that seed right off the bat. And, you know, I just had a gal yesterday or the day before. She was getting to the end of her 15 visit plan, and she asked me, she's like, "So when do I need to sign up for this membership?"
Nice.
Like, well, let me see how many visits you've got left. So yeah, it's been working well. I don't know what the percentage is of how many people go through and end up signing up for a membership, but it's got to be pretty decent. I'm pretty bad about tracking my numbers specifically. Ain't nobody got time for that.
Cool. John, anything to add?
I think, you know, my success pattern here for my Stretch Man group goes back a little bit further than just a couple of weeks ago. But I think that asking for help is one of the things that was a catalyst for things growing again. You know, I think that it's easy to kind of get wrapped around, I don't know how to do this next thing, or that I even need to do it. And just asking somebody to help with making that possible can alleviate some of the stress and then allow the final product to be better and allow me to do the things that, I'm better at, that, I want to be doing. So I think that that's one of the areas. And honestly, Ellory, I mean, I'm not saying this to inflate your head, but I think that being part of a group like this, where I can talk about, the ideas that I might have is important, whether it's entrepreneurial stuff like this or wherever else I want to grow. I think people underestimate the power of community to speak into what is really important to reaching our goals. And I think there's a lot of power in having people who are going to ask me some tough questions, hold me accountable, and cheerlead for me when I need somebody to say, hey, you're doing a good job. You're on the right track. And you guys do that for me. I hope that I'm doing that in the other groups that I'm in. But, that's been huge. And I'm not, bringing in these monthly dollar figures that you guys are talking about right now. But, I still think that there's been success in what I'm doing, and I'm
I'd say so.
that.
I'd say you've had a lot of success. Your success looks different. I mean, when you're talking about all the things in Guatemala, that's not the same types of destinations. But I would say you have had quite a bit of success, at least from where I'm sitting.
Yeah. And you guys have made me think about things differently, and I'm still in that process. I mentioned earlier about the need for a strategic board of advisors or whatever. I don't know if I would have been thinking about that a year ago, but I see the real need for that. And I think that it comes out of conversations like what we've had over the last year.
Okay. So I'll start with Corey, since you got to go. What would you tell to somebody who is in a mastermind and they've kind of stalled, they're frustrated, they're not getting traction and results yet, and they've been at it 3 or 4 months?
Man, I would ask them what's wrong with their mastermind or what's wrong with them not accepting the input, because more than likely they're getting the help that they need. They're just not taking action. And I know I'm guilty of that certain weeks. I haven't done any Facebook Lives. So it's part of it, but that's where the accountability comes in. You guys are here to call me out when I don't do those things. And if that person isn't getting the results that they want, I think they need some introspection on, are their expectations of this mastermind in the wrong place? Are they expecting this mastermind to do the work for them, or are they there, like John said, for that opportunity to vocalize and gather more for me or for that person to do?
Cool. Beaton?
So educating your expectations, I think, it would be huge. As Corey said, are you just now installing a website and expecting to make money at it tomorrow? And not really understanding the process of growth, not really understanding the process and the work it takes over time to make something successful. And then, like everything else, is the taking action part. If you're not taking action and implementing the feedback that you're getting from the outside of you, then that's on you. One of the difficult things is, we do get so attached to our own work. We get so attached to our own pictures. We get so attached to our own things that we need a objective, somebody who's going to tell you, man, that looks like crap. A picture of oranges and apples has nothing to do with selling a home. Yeah, it's a great picture, but it's got nothing to do with selling. So that's the type of feedback that you have to be willing to accept, and then take action on the change.
I think a lot of people may, or people that aren't getting success out of masterminds or, out of anything that they're paying for, when it comes to the implementation, it's kind of like getting a gym membership and not showing up. You're paying this money and you think that because you're paying this money, results are going to happen. And that's just not how life works.
I think, looking back on the whole mastermind thing, I think that there was a switch several months ago that happened. And Matt, maybe you're in tune to it too, because you were part of the group that, you and I started with. But Ellory, when you started asking at the end of each meeting, all right, what are you guys going to do in the next 2 weeks? There was a change that happened in the group. I mean, I could see it in Matt's success for sure. Yeah, you said, all right, what are you going to do in the next 2 weeks? And then knowing like today, we get on the phone and you ask us, how'd you do on those things you said you were going to take action on? You know, it's that whole accountability piece. And there's the accountability piece, but there's also that thought of, this isn't about just sitting around a table singing Kumbaya. This is about, you know, making decisions and taking action, making an intentional decision to move forward. And that changed, I don't know how many months ago. I'd have to look at my notes when you started asking that question, Ellory.
I'd agree with that. Just to kind of touch base, so like I was thinking the whole flight back, like 12 hours, was in the back of my mind that I hadn't done this thing that I said I was going to do 2 weeks ago, like all day yesterday. It was there, you know? And so I think my input on the question, Ellery, about like what I would say to somebody who feels like they're not getting the results they want and they're frustrated. I have to look at where I was exactly 3 months ago, or very close to 3 months ago. And I remember sitting at the resort in Florida, like ready to run my marathon and talking about how I was frustrated about this course that I created wasn't selling. And Corey was like, you don't have like the social proof to sell it. And I was pissed. Like I was legitimately pissed off.
You were angry.
I was just like, you know, I was pretty pissed about the whole thing. Cause it's like, this is my baby. Everyone should buy it. Right. Like that. But I mean, it was true. Like you can't, and since then I've really let that lesson marinate and sort of kind of brew a little bit. And it's funny because I've actually, in some of my clients that I've been helping, I've actually told that same thing. Like I had somebody I was helping trying to sell a $1,500 like in-person workshop using a Facebook ad and not an ad that I created, by the way, but like using a Facebook ad with a bunch of text. And it was like, call this number to make your reservation. And I was like, that's not going to work. You know, but so to kind of reference that, to like go back 3 months ago and see where I was sitting, I think what I would tell somebody who's finding frustration with their mastermind group is that they maybe need to look in the mirror and get really honest with themselves about what they want. And maybe the reason that they're not getting the results they want is because they're not being vulnerable enough and open enough with their group about what they want. And if they feel like they can't be vulnerable and open with that group, then maybe it's time to find a new mastermind group. I think the only way that your roundtable can kind of really, really shine the light onto you and help the best is if you're open to receiving that. If you've got walls built up and you're not vulnerable with them, they can't really give in to you the best they could.
Man, I'd just like to add, I'm not paying anybody to say that. I started, John, the note, begin implementing in every meeting I will do XYZ by 1, 2, 3. I put that note on November 30th, and I started doing that on my first calls in December. So we're 4 months into that, and I would
definitely say it makes a difference. Yeah, for sure.
That's awesome.